Alrighty, moving on to Murlocs. First, we got Lady Scout as a new one. Sort of combat. If this minion is in your hand, summon a copy of it. Really, the only thing you can do is it lets you start doing some hand buffs early, but I don't think it's exactly going to be too crazy. It does pair well with the new Grimscale Elegist, I think. At the end of your turn, give a friendly minion and a minion in your hand 1/1. So there's a little bit of synergy going on there. Skyfin we talked about with the dragons, but that's really it's only going to be good if you have a battle cry. Something like the Parch Wanderer and Skyfin's not a bad turn 3 kind of play. Big change is Tavern Tier 3 now has base skill. This is actually probably one of the biggest buffs for base skill is getting it early. Because like the Flighty Scout is a copy, I believe you can play the like scout will go on the board. Basic will pill the original, and that's just a little combo from the beginning. And Basic will scale into all the poison and pull in big stuff that we know. Scorpion's back. This is a way to just buff your hand. Sholvin Mystic. Battlecry, your tavern spells that give stats grant an extra +1 health this game. Part of why I think this is going to be relevant than some of the other buffing spells that we've seen is because it's a Murloc and Primal Fin exists. There's a lot of ways to discover Murlocs essentially for free. So if you have a brand, you're essentially getting this for free, getting the 2 health, and obviously that's going to be relevant because it's for free. Next, new going into the Tavern Tier 4. Looks like we got a bunch of new ones. Apprentice of the Seven, I think. Battlecry give a Murloc 4/4 and a random bonus keyword. Obviously, if you have Brand around and you're able to give something Venom, Divine Shield, Reborn, this is going to be a lot of ways to give utility to your board. Imagine having base skill with Reborn or base skill with Venom on it. Obviously, this is probably one of the best cards that you can have as one of your Primal Fin discovers to just make your board a lot stronger. Gourmet. It's a four Tavern Tier 4/2/2 that gives you a new spell, Seafood Stew. This is give a minion +1/+1 for each bonus keyword it has. You figure most of your stuff's gonna have 1 to 2 um, keywords on it, so you might be getting a 1 cost 2/2 buff. I don't think this is gonna be crazy. However, again, it's gonna be a battle cry that you're potentially getting for free, so it's some free stats that way. It's just not a lot of payoff. I'd rather take something that generates more cards if possible. It looks like they got rid of Tad. Oh no, Tad's still here. So I'd rather take like a Tad over this, but it's better than nothing kind of thing. But Gurgle, they made Tavern Tier 4. It's a 4/3, a little bit less buffs. But just a way to stabilize a little bit earlier with Murlocs. Hackerfin's been moved down or moved up, sorry, to 5, and now does 3/3 rather than 3/2. I don't think that's necessarily a buffer. This is probably a pretty big debuff, but they did switch around Bergurgle in it, so really they want the keyword to be the higher Tavern Tier item. Going to Tavern Tier 6, our new Murloc here, Merc Brine Expeditioner. Taunt Divine Shield. After this gains stats, also gives stats to leftmost minion in your hand. This is just another way to do hand buffing kind of stuff. Um, Beam Corner still in the game, so that's going to be what you try to hit with this. Murky is back. Young Murky is, I guess, going to be a thing again. But we'll see if that's actually enough stats to be like the problem that it's been in the past. So let's now move over and look at some of the trinkets that are going to be relevant for Murlocs. The biggest things to see with Murlocs is anything that's hand buff related, or anything that allows you to go more infinite. The infinite ends up playing a lot of the more like poison scam kind of builds. So base skill portraits, it's get a base skill after you summon a Murloc in combat, give it divine shield. This is going to be a way to just get a lot of utility out of your big minions that you've been buffing. Belcher portrait, there's a lesser and a greater. Get a Belcher, whenever front of the minion loses venom, give it 4/4. The greater one costs less and gives 14/14. I don't think you're necessarily upset with this as a lesser trinket if you already have some Murlocs. The stats let you stabilize. The venom makes it so you don't take a lot of damage as you're leveling up. And that's kind of how you play from there. Bluegill Flippers. This is a new one. After you cast a tavern spell, give the leftmost minion in your hand +4/+4. Um, it's something to stabilize, but I don't think this is going to be big enough that you take it. Like, you have to remember, like, when you're taking these, like, would you rather have just like a Book of Medivh or some type of generic lesser trinket instead? And I think you would. I don't think that 4/4 stats is necessarily going to be super relevant. Bronzebeard Portrait, we talked about this with dragons, but again, it makes your brand a Murloc. And brand's extremely important in like getting Primal Fin shenanigans. Cliff Diver Sticker. At the end of the turn, give your leftmost minion +3/+2, improved for for each battle cry you triggered this turn. Don't think it's going to be insane, but it's a little bit of a stabilize for you. Compasses, what it's worth, compasses are very good with Murlocs, specifically because they have a lot of ways to get added. Like the cards by themselves aren't very strong, but with added value, a lot of them generate new cards, and that's how you end up getting a lot of value out of the Murlocs. Crocheted Sungill. After your last minion dies each combat, summon the highest health minion from your hand. So something that's kind of relevant with this is that something like your Flighty Scout summoning a copy of it. So you can potentially get an extra summon off of this. But the question is like, why would you ever take this over like a Primal Fin or something like that? Like this is really just a death rattle effect. I don't think that's gonna be enough. Curator Sticker, kind of relevant, is that new 4 cost Apprentice. You can give the Venom, the Divine Shield, and the Reborn to the Mismatch and the Amalgam. So very good stats there. I think Curator is going to be very good in Murloc lobbies. Continuing on, um, see if there's any others that look like they are relevant for the Murlocs. Interesting. I used to think Glow Scale Portrait was really good in Murlocs, but because they now have that 4 drop that can give Divine Shield with the Battle Cry, effectively, then Glow Scale Portrait's probably a little bit less important in Murloc comps. Hackerfin Portrait. Get a Hackerfin. Your Hackerfins also trigger at the end of each turn. Um, if they made Drakari like the issue is that it's a greater trinket. If this was a lesser trinket and cost like 6 or something, I think it would be usable. But right now, where this is at, I don't think it's giving you enough stats. Generally, with the Murloc trinkets, you want something that's generating you value, not necessarily tempo in the form of stats, but more tempo in the form of like utility kind of cards. There is a Morgul portrait, get a Tide Oracle Morgul. Obviously, it's going to be strong. It's a tier 7 minion that you're getting for 1 gold. So a lot of tempo there, a lot of ways to stabilize if you have something like the Beam Courier in your hand already. Nurgos Phase Books, they're coming back. There's the lesser and the greater. After you play a minion, give your leftmost minion in your hand 3/2. After you play a minion, give your leftmost 5/5. This is okay if you have like the brand and you're cycling. The issue with this is it's just more stats, and generally you need more utility than the more stats. Primal Fit and Portrait's bad. This one always goes insane. You can tell because it's a greater trinket that costs 8. Get a Primal Fit and Lookout, so that's already worth 3 gold, assuming you have a brand. And after you discover minion, get a random tavern spell. So with this trinket, if you have a brand, you're getting 2 tavern spells and the 3 minions from Primal Fin. The 3 gold from Primal Fin. So like if you have a brand, this pays for itself on the first turn, and you can just this makes you go infinite so easily, especially because there's spells that let you discover, and it's absolutely insane. Anything else that we're missing with the Murlocs? Twin Sky, whenever you have space summon a copy of the first minion, you summon each combat. This is really good if you have like a base skill and you pull out a really big beam courier. You're gonna get another really big one once you have space. Um, that was kind of a big combo back in the day. War Drum, 1 battle cry, each turn triggers an extra time, 1 left. Um, this is a little bit of tempo in the early game, but I don't see War Drum being very good, especially because it costs 2. I think this could honestly cost for like be free or be like Bobblehead where it gives you 2 gold, and that would probably be around when it finally starts becoming um, relevant. The other thing that's kind of that we skipped over that's a really good one with uh, with Murlocs is anything. Where is it? This spend 7 gold for a spell. Anyways, like it's fancy spell book. After you spend 7 gold, get a random tavern spell. You're going to be spending a lot of gold with Murlocs because they have a lot of value generation with the Primal Fin and Tad. And a lot of the battle cries you want to be cycling anyways. So fancy spellbook is pretty reasonable as a pickup with Murlocs as well. So, anyways, there's Murlocs. Hope it helps you. See ya. Bye.